Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my van down by the river. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. You know, as I was watching the hustle and bustle and the preparing of the Thanksgiving meal, I started to think of all things about prepping. I started thinking about, why am I a prepper? Because, if you think about it, the first Thanksgiving was all about being prepared, or not being prepared, as it were. You see, the pilgrims came from the old country to the new world, and they were not prepared for the harsh realities that the new world offered them. They'd come from a place where if you hit rock bottom, you could cry out and someone would help you. That's the beauty of culture. That's the beauty of society, is that to some degree, even in the harshest of societies, there is some charity and some ability to obtain help. But when the Europeans came, the pilgrims came to the New World, they were completely on their own. And they had not prepared, and they had not done well in their preparations for the coming harsh winter. And the beauty of the first Thanksgiving meal is that the Native Americans brought them the native foods. The turkey. It was turkey season. Thanksgiving is turkey season. That's when all the little baby chicks, what are baby turkeys? I don't know. All the little turklets are all grown up now, and come wintertime, it's every bird for themselves. So the mothering thing is over, and the fathering thing is over, and the Indians know that's the time to take the turkey. And so this is why we have turkey on Thanksgiving, because it was part of this traditional meal that was brought to these poor people who were about to starve to death. The pilgrims were about to starve to death. They were starving to death when they were rescued by the Native Americans, who were, in fact, prepared. And so, a lot of people are asking me, Sage, is your channel turning into a prepper's channel? Well, my channel is pretty much about me. It's about my opinion of things, my ideas, my take on things, my stories. And I'm a prepper, so, prepping is going to be a part of my channel. But one of the reasons I started making prepping videos on this channel, when I haven't been doing that so much in the past, is that I see where our country is headed. And I see a generation of people who are utterly and totally unprepared for what is about to come our way. You see, just like the pilgrims that came over and couldn't imagine a place where there wasn't some safety net, and took too many chances without enough assurances. Just like that group of people did not see the harsh winter coming and did not see their failure ahead of time, so does my generation and the younger generations not see what is coming. Not because there's a mysterious new world, but because the future, I guess, is always a mysterious new world. And whenever we look into the future, we're guessing, and it's a gamble. But those who are prepared for what is coming will do better than those that aren't. And honestly, it's up to those that are prepared to help those that aren't along the way. So this is why I'm making my channel, because I think in your lifetime, you may be faced with the real life situation of surviving. Are you prepared for the cold winter? The winter is coming, both figuratively and literally. So Thanksgiving, to me, really is about prepping. It's about plenty and bounty, and it's about showing off what you have done all summer long to prepare for the harsh winter ahead. And so, as you sit down and partake in this bounty, ask yourself today, what would you do if you couldn't go down to the grocery store and get a Thanksgiving meal? What if you couldn't get a meal? What if you couldn't get a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk? What if you couldn't order a pizza? Do you know how to make food? That's the thing about our generation and the younger people. They don't know how to make food. And I don't mean cook. Where does your food come from? You're sitting down in front of a great big pile of it today. Where did the food come from, and how did it get on your plate? And if those people that did those things for you were not there, could you survive? Are you prepared? Do you know how to feed yourself? John Titor has been a topic of discussion on this channel for a while, and his predictions that he made, although he claimed to be a time traveler, I either believe that John Titor was a time traveler, or I believe that he was an insider who knew the plan that was going to be laid out and rolled out. Because what's happening in America and what's happening in the world is an evil plot. It's an evil plan. And it was hatched by people like George Soros, who are actively funding it. All of those migrants, this invading horde coming out of North Africa into Europe and taking over whole cities and townships and making no-go zones and all of these rape squads and all of this, they were drummed up, gathered up, paid for, given the traveling papers and a promise of a new future and sent to Europe, just like the migrant caravans are being sent to North America from South America. You know, Joseph in the Bible, he was sold into slavery and betrayed by his own brothers. He found himself wrongfully accused and rotting in prison. And he was able to interpret a dream of a king. Now, that alone is a feat. And he got it right, because what he was predicting was a famine. He interpreted the king's dream to mean 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of what's the word I'm looking for? Famine. Fathom. I was trying to say fathom. Famine. But yeah, 7 years of famine. And because of not just the fact that he interpreted the dream, but because he was given charge to make the preparations, and they laid up the 7 years of plenty to make up for the 7 years of famine. And they didn't just feed Egypt, they fed the whole region, including Joseph's own brothers who came with their hand out asking for some grain. They had it to give because they were prepared. That preparation and being able to take care of yourself and others is a human obligation that our generation has completely and totally abdicated. They've walked away from their responsibility to themselves and the world, and they don't know how to feed themselves. So, with me being a bit of the prophetic and seeing a bit of the future, and at least maybe if I'm not being prompted by the Spirit, and I'm not a time traveler, maybe I can be like the worst case scenario, John Titor, and just be a guy that sees the writing on the wall. I kind of see the writing on the wall of where our country is headed. As a person who's studied history intently and intensely and deeply, I can tell you that we're headed down a road that leads to disaster. And back to the John Titor statements, one of the first things that John Titor said to our generation was the first thing he said was, buy a rifle and learn how to clean it. He didn't say shoot it, he said learn how to clean and maintain it and keep it. I imagine there's going to be a bunch of rusty guns in the future. With the rain we get in Oregon, I'm surprised they're not all rusted shut. But the second thing he said was to learn about backwoods sanitation. In his predictions in the Civil War, there was a lot of disease because people didn't even understand that you have to dig a hole and put your poo-poo in it, or everybody gets ill around you and everyone gets sick. You know, human waste, garbage, it's all going to pile up because the people we've been paying to make it go away aren't making it go away anymore. I mean, my generation and the younger people don't even know how to clean up after themselves. So, Sage, why are you making prepping videos? Because I guess as a guy who knows how to clean up after myself, as a guy who was raised by Depression-era parents, my parents understood how important it is to be prepared. They kept a pantry, and even though they didn't do it as well as they'd like to, they were considered real gamblers. They weren't as pragmatic as most of their generation, but I learned a lot from them. And I would be very irresponsible at this stage in our historical perspective, knowing what I know about what may be coming down the road. I might be held liable if I didn't start sharing this information now, when there's so much, ability to communicate. I might teach 100 people or 1,000 people how to do the basic things of survival. And I know there's a lot of information out there, but I think a lot of times people come at it from a really advanced perspective, expecting you to make a huge financial commitment. And I think a lot of people just need the knowledge. I think the knowledge is more important than the stuff. So I am going to continue to do videos on prepping on the cheap, and how you can be prepared, and how you can be responsible for yourself and the people around you when you can no longer go to the grocery store. I know it's kind of a grim thing to talk about on Thanksgiving, but I think this is why I am thankful, is that all of the previous generations and thousands of years of human endeavor have led us to a place of plenty, where food is so plentiful it's literally being wasted by the train loads. But yet our people, our rank and file people, would be completely lost without this system. Without this system to support them, they would be completely and utterly as defenseless as little babies. That if the proverbial defecated material hits the proverbial rotating blade, then in this country and things fall apart, there are going to be people that are going to be relying on other people, because they're going to be just as defenseless as a little bitty baby. So why do I prep? Well, I think I prep because I come from a family tradition of doing it. I do it because in 1993, it was the early 90s. It started in the early 90s, late 80s. For me, watching or hearing of and seeing some of the post-traumatic footage of a U.S. Marshal sniper shooting Vicki Weaver in the head while she held her own baby, and shot this woman in the head while she was holding a baby on her own front porch, after they'd already killed her son and shot her husband up. And for what? Well, you can look into that, because that's called Ruby Ridge, Randy and Vicki Weaver, and the Ruby Ridge standoff. And for me, that was the beginning of the end. For me, that's when I knew that the future was going to be bleak in my lifetime, or in the lifetime of my children at least. I doubled down on that concept when I saw the United States government set fire to a house, really a house of worship, a old style commune kind of religious compound. They want to call it a compound, but really was more like a rectory, or a place for people seeking God to go and have refuge. And they burned that to the ground in Waco. They killed 19 little children. That was our own government did that. ATF, thank you very much. Then I was even less impressed with the return volley of fire in Oklahoma City, killing all of those babies in that daycare in the basement of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. And we've been in a civil war since the 1990s. Hillary Clinton and her generation of liberal control freaks have been at war with the United States Constitution since the 1970s. And it's just getting worse. Know what you're facing. Know what the future is holding for us. It is not all sunshine and peppermint sticks, my friends. So you need to know some things, and if you don't, it's not too late to get started. Is my channel turning into a prepper channel? I think it always was, because it's a channel about me. And at my core, I believe in being prepared, and that it's my obligation to not just look after me, but everyone around me who might be vulnerable when the wolves come in the night. Providing for your family used to be called keeping the wolves at bay. And I think some of those analogies are going to get more and more real as time marches on. God save our republic, our way of life, and God bless you on Thanksgiving Day.